Hello and welcome to That's Who Speaks. Today is Tuesday, February 27th, I think, and this is episode 215, probably. Hi, how are you? I am Amy Beth, also known as the Fat Squirrel on Ravelry and the Fat SQRRL on Instagram. Can you tell that in my brain I'm trying to remind myself not to talk so quickly? It's going to last for 4 seconds. Sorry. I know I am not a queen of elocution or enunciation, but my brain works fast enough that my mouth can't catch up, so sometimes things get wobbledy-doodled together. It's part of my charm, right? Totally. Totally part of my charm. It's not annoying and limiting in any way. Not at all. Oh my gosh, hello. It's only been 2 weeks since we've talked, but it feels like it's been a million years. So many things have happened since then. Okay, if you had an eventful life, probably you would not think this, but I don't have one. So for me, whoa! It's been like 3 months of living in the last 2 weeks. What's going on? What's going on? Okay, that's even an exaggeration, but hello. Also part of my charm. I'm prone to hyperbole. A little bit. I'm trying to figure out where to put this. I'm all like, so let's get started, y'all. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about Patreon prize for just a second. Don't just settle down. Settle down. Because I have a new prize to add to this quarter's prizes. And then I'll probably do shenanigans. And then I will do knitting. And then I will do... During shenanigans, I will show what I got at the market, which is at the Knitting Pipeline Retreat Market, which is very minimal. So it won't be like a crazy... It's not like a haul or anything. And then at the end, I will do shameless self-promotion because there is an update coming up in the shop, actually Thursday and Friday. So March 1st and 2nd, there's an update, and then there'll be another update March 23rd. But I don't have that to show you, but it'll be farm-tastic. I'm just saying that. Just saying that. Because it's about time, right? It's about the time that we're looking at our seed catalogs. Actually, we probably already have purchased our seeds if we were together humans and not me. But whatever. We're seed cataloging. We're maybe even seed starting. Joanna Spring Knit Spin Farm has already got onion starts in her house, y'all. Not like on the floor. But as soon as I said that, I was like, that sounds like they just threw onions like willy-nilly into the, like they were just like, they just accumulated. No, she has like her seed starting station. And when we picked her up for Knitting Pipeline, there were plants going already. But she's a professional farmer. So, I mean, I can't live up to that. But it does tell me that I need to get myself in gear. Okay. Especially also today it's going to be 60 degrees. And sunny. I'm totally going to like take my... I'm putting a bikini on. My all 350 pounds of me. I have a lot of surface area to soak up some vitamin D. That's all I'm saying. Now, actually, as soon as I say that, I'm like, I wonder if that's actually legitimately true. Oh my God! Is that why fat people are happy? Okay, now I know that's a stereotype. And quite frankly, by all measures, we should be the saddest people in the universe in the society in which we live. But there's that myth of the jolly fat person. Maybe it's because we have more skin to soak up vitamin D. I'm just saying. Somebody's gonna be like, no, that's not how biology works. Don't burst my bubble. Okay, burst my bubble so I don't like continue to have this theory that's false. But I want to really know that it's false. Not just like, no, that's crazy fat lady. Shush. I mean, I want to see some science if it's not true. Because otherwise I'm going with it. Epiphanies. I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, it's warm, so I need to... Okay, so farm. Yeah, so there's a farming update March right there. Right. Okay, so let's do the Patreon thing. Now that we're talking about... Well, we weren't talking about it, but we are kind of... Just go with it. Before I do that, let me say... I am wearing my Neon Beast, which is by Veera Valimaki, and it is one of my favorite shawls. I don't wear it as often because it's definitely not my normal color palette, although it kind of is, but it's a little different. But it is with Madeline Tosh. It's either twist or it's not the like single ply, so it's either twist or sock, but I think it's twist, maybe the one with nylon in it. I can't remember for sure. Don't quote me on that. Might just be sock. But it's like the purple one I think is geode. I don't know what that one is anymore. The yellow one, I don't know what the yellow one is anymore, but maybe it's like wheat or something. Going with it. There's a point down here. It's a good 3-color shawl. It's a nice one to do because the colors, oh gosh, really? Why do I do this? The colors do play together, but not a lot. So you just have, like, you don't have all 3 colors playing together at once. Because that's a thing, right? Like when you've got a 3-color shawl going. Some shawls, all 3 colors are playing together. Some shawls, the 3 colors are really just adjacent to each other, but they're not really interacting that much together. And then some are just like an overlap of the 2 colors. So this one just, it has less overlap is what I'm trying to say very ineloquently. But it was very enjoyable to knit. And it is very enjoyable to wear. So again, that is the Neon Beast by Veera Valimaki. And as Mr. West would say, how do you wear this shawl? You put it on your body. That's how you wear it, or something like that. His was better. Sorry. We definitely cannot all be Mr. West. Just saying. Okay. So Patreon prizes. The first quarter is January, February, March, so I will announce prizes the first podcast in April. It's going to be a trick. I'll tell you about that owing in just a minute. So the prizes I've already announced are that there's this cute 21 color slouch hat by Blue Sky Fiber, which I bought for myself, but I haven't knit it yet, and it's so gorgeous that it should really go to somebody who wants to knit it right away. And like, let's face it, I have so much goodness. It's sickening. One of the braids has untwisted itself, but I'll try to fix that. Right. Also, this yarn is super dreamy. I've not knit with it, but I feel like, and the color palette is the best. And then I already showed you from Andre Sue Knits, the Rhinebeck Pop-Up Commemorative Sock Blank. I believe she will probably do them for Maryland as well, because oh my gosh, Maryland Shiva was almost happening, like the day after tomorrow. So isn't that cute? It's a whole sock blank. So there's 4 repeats of the super cute sheep dudes. Right, that's a fancy prize. And then at the Knitting Pipeline Retreat, I won this prize, which is original hand-painted yarn, passion color, all it touches, Sonoma, Ba? Why don't I know things? I guess that's the base of Sonoma. But I don't know who the producer is. It just is hand-painted in the USA. Anyway, it's a superwash merino yarn, and it is gorgeous. I guess it's just Sonoma from Ba Yarns. I don't know. But like, isn't that fun? And then I realized I should give you this too, because that's happy, right? Like, come on, that's super spring happy. And so this is Plymouth Yarns in the Happy Feet 100 Splash Hand Dyed. So this one is a merino nylon, and this one is just superwash merino, but they definitely will play together quite nicely because they're both that 2-ply twist structure. So right. I hope if you win that, you love it. So anyway, those prizes will be for anybody who donated to the podcast, either via Patreon, which you can find at I'll put the thing down there. But it's patreon.com/thefatsquirrel, I think. Or you can just search Patreon Fat Squirrel. It'll come up. Or by using the PayPal donate button that you can find on my website, thefatsquirrel.com, which is also where you can find show notes. As long as I remember to do them, which I do usually, but sometimes forget. Hi, I'm human. So human. But I am a vitamin D powerhouse. That's probably the name of the show. I don't have a pen. Oh well. Okay, so So that was that. That was the housekeeping. Now let's do shenanigans, the favorite part of the podcast. So I went to the Knitting Pipeline Retreat this last weekend in Washington, Illinois. I believe this is my 5th attendance year. I've been a podcaster for that long. That's crazy. Let's not think about that right now, Beth. Let's just not do it. Anyway, so this is the 5th year I've gone, and of course, as always, it is totally enjoyable. Paula, ding, ding, ding. Oh, I forgot to bring my apple. Paula totally brought me an apple. It's called, oh wait, well now I just have to stop it and go get it because I had planned to do this anyway and I just forgot. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Paula brought me an Autumn Glory apple. How cute is that? That's so fancy. But I want to talk about, this was a very delicious apple. It is on the sweeter side. So if you're a fan of a Honeycrisp or, I always kind of think of Galas as really sweet, like a Golden Delicious. It is more on that side. It's also not a super firm apple. I would not say that it in any way, the two that I ate, because this is my 3rd one, which I saved specifically so I could tell you about it. I would not say in any way that it verges on the mealy side, because sometimes that's the thing is firm is the antithesis of the mealy, that granular kind of and it doesn't in any way infringe on that territory of but it is not a hard apple. I ate mine just like an animal when Paula gave one to me. Because I'm still not the cool person who has a penknife in her purse or pocket to just peel off the apple and iron, Life goals. I'm not 40 yet. It will be soon. But maybe that should be my 40th year goal, is to be the person who always has the pocket knife so she can cut up an apple. Some of you were like, that is not really a crazy life goal, but it's still who I want to be. Some people were like, have an extensive IRA portfolio. No. Just want to be the person who has a pocket knife. Whatever, I can attain one of those goals and you can guess which one it is. So, it is definitely a sweeter apple. And it's maybe a little bit firmer than a Golden Delicious is typically. And of course, these things will vary throughout the season. This is clearly a keeper apple because Paula said they came to her grocery store at this time of year. So those actually have usually they're very different from when you first pick them to where you're getting them at a grocery store. For example, our local orchard, Tuttle Orchard, has an apple called Gold Rush. And at the beginning of the season, it is a very firm apple and it has a lot more brightness in the flavor. I wouldn't say tart necessarily. It's always a sweet apple, but it has a lighter sweetness to it. But as the season goes on, they keep them there. They store them in cold storage, so they're not in any way damaged or anything like that, but they're just aging like anything does. A cheese or a wine, fancy stuff ages well. I'm not, but I'll tell you that in a minute. So, but as it ages, it gets a much softer texture and it gets a much sweeter texture that is much more akin to a Golden Delicious. That kind of heavier sweetness that's almost, syrupy is a bad word, but it's that kind of sweetness, a little bit more whoa, that's sweet. So, who knows what this tastes like exactly when it comes off the tree versus now, but it's still a very delightful apple. Another apple that I've tried recently is the Opal apple, and I may have tried this last year. In fact, I think I did, because I believe that they showed up in our Aldi last year. Now this year they were in our Aldi, or they are in our Aldi and our Target grocery stores. Super Target. And they are also a sweeter apple, but they have a nice texture. A little bit firmer, probably, than the Autumn Glory, but still very sweet and really enjoyable. They have kind of almost a pear-like taste. They definitely are a different flavor. It's again, I don't know what pear tastes like except pear. I'm trying to think of whatever. It definitely has pear notes. And I think this one had a different, I need to taste it again. But it also had like a flavor that I think Paula said she felt like it tasted kind of cinnamony or spicy. And it definitely has, again, a flavor profile that I haven't quite figured out yet that is interesting. So, yay, apples! If you're new to the podcast, I kind of have a thing for apples. Some might call it a slight obsession. I'm just saying. I haven't bought the like full on all the apple varieties. I have checked it out from the library. But I haven't bought that book yet, so I'm not totally insane. Anyway, okay, so that was part of it. But let's talk about the Knitting Pipeline Retreat, okay? So, I'm in Indianapolis, the royal we. I'm in Indianapolis. Malia comes up, who is Rhymes with Maria, who had a podcast briefly. And by the way, if you have never watched her podcast, she's not currently producing any longer. But the back episodes are still out in the universe, and you need to check that out, y'all. What was her podcast even called? Oh my gosh. Somebody put it in the reply on the YouTubes. Because now I can't remember, but it was such a good podcast. And so even though it's not in production any longer, which will make you sad, you should still go watch what's out there, because it is highly informative. Okay. That's her Goodreads profile. That's not going to tell me. Oh, wait, I can't find it right now. If I remember, I'll put it in the podcast. Anyway. So then get the Corey, who is Corey the girl on Ravelry, and then we go pick up the Joanna. By the way, I'm driving in my super awesome minivan this whole time. And so then we swing by and we get the Joanna, but it's not just a straight pickup. No. We have to go to Joanna's. We have to have an amazing breakfast prepared for us by Bill. Joanna also is no longer producing her podcast, but it is still out there and you can still enjoy it. It's been fun. And then of course you can buy all of her stuff, but I'll show you that in a minute. But then Bill was there and made us crazy good breakfast. Buckwheat crepes, y'all. Buck Wild. That's what they should be called. Not buckwheat, but Buck Wild grapes. With like delicious raw potato and egg. And then if you wanted it and you were not a vegetarian, which I am not, there was like some cured pork thing that they're like artisanally curing in their like, I don't know, next to where they're growing onions in their floor apparently. This magic land up there. As a side note, let me just discuss. I need less awesome friends. Because at least for like a week and a half after I hang out with any of these people, I'm like, oh, I'm such a loser. Really, there are so many amazing people I have met through this podcast. It's insane. Insane. And I do really go through at least 10 days, if not more, of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that stupid middle American rednecky thing that I said. Where did that even come from? Where was that? What was that? I mean, like, for like forever afterwards. Whatever. We're all human. Oh, so we had like a crazy beautiful breakfast and we got to go see the goats and the sheep. What? Amazing. Just, that's all there's to it. And by the way, pregnant goat is so sweet. Like you just are like, Mama, I feel you. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, whatever, you have one baby. I have like 7. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, whatever. She does not have 7 babies. She only has 2, Joanna. I don't know that you're watching, but I'm putting in the universe. 3 babies are very stressful. Anyway, so we got to hang out with the goats and like, oh, so sweet. So cute and good. And so then we headed off on our epic journey, which would have been slightly less epic had I not totally taken us almost to Chicago. If you're not familiar with Middle American U.S. geography, oh, I'm never going to be able to do this. Because rights and lefts get really confused. That was too much laughing. Rights and lefts gets really confused. But anyway, Illinois, Washington, Illinois, and Indianapolis, Indiana are pretty much on the same line with each other, like north-south wise. It's like the tiniest bit north right at the end, but pretty much they're like right here. And Route 74 goes from Indianapolis. I can't tell if I've gotten east-west confused. Indianapolis is east of Washington, Illinois. I can't do it backwards. But let's say this is Indianapolis, and this is definitely east of this thing. That's the wrong way. Okay, this is Indianapolis. And this is Washington. Okay, I gotta stop. Anyway, one or the other. Route 74 goes between... Now you're gonna be like, no wonder you were lost. Okay, shush. I'm actually like slightly arrogant. I don't want to say the word arrogant. That's not correct. But I am prideful about my ability to navigate and like get us to the first year we went on this thing, we had never met each other. And I had the instructions written out like on the back of an envelope. And Bill was like, Joanna's husband was like, are you guys gonna be able to get there? And I was like, yeah, we've got instructions written on the back of an envelope. And he was like, sure. And we made it there safely. And so I'm that kind of person. I am prideful about being able to get to places in an efficient and calm way. This is just confusing because spatially this is awkward because you're reverso, but maybe not when I actually... That's why this is confusing. Normally I can tell west and east on a map very easily. And even like in the world, I'm usually pretty good about being like, that is west, that is east, that is north. No. Anyway, so they're straight, so like you get on Route 74 and then you just go all the way to Washington almost and get off at the last second and then go over and up and over and up. Okay? Usually we go to the farm on the way out there. She has Leicester, Longwells, I can't remember her name, I'm so sorry. But anyway, she is in Illinois as well. She's in Tremont, Illinois. And so usually we go to her farm, and it's very confusing to get to her farm. It's not very confusing, but you drive on like a secondary route for quite some time. So inevitably on the way there, I'm like, can somebody just check on our iPhone to make sure we're at the right place? Because I don't have one of those fancy space devices. So inevitably I'm like, are we really going the right way? Because we've been on this like rural two-lane road for like 45 minutes and I start to get nervous, and you know, we're always fine. Well, this year we weren't going to go there because we left late because we were having such a decadent breakfast and goat visiting session that we knew we weren't going to be able to make it to her farm in time. So we were just going to go right to Washington, Illinois, have our lunch, and then go up and go to the retreat. So I had some hubris and thought, oh, we're not even going to like the Tremont, the out of the way place. I got this. Totally got this. We're just going to drive until we get to the exit that we needed, and then we're going to get off. And it's like no problem at all. I even had my husband's GPS in the car that I did not plug in. Hubris! So we're driving, and all of a sudden Leah's like, shouldn't we be there? She's like, I'm really hungry. Shouldn't we be there? I'm like, yeah, I didn't look at what time we left, because that's like another indicator, right? I didn't, and let me just discuss. All of Illinois looks exactly the same, unless it's Chicago. I'm sorry. That is, I'm not from Illinois, and it just all kind of looks the same to me. I'm sure there are nuances, but I don't know what they are. So, Malia gets on her talking to space device, and I was like, oh, we're like 53 minutes away. And I'm like, really? That seems strange. And I'm like thinking about it, like, well, we did get late start, and there's like a time change, which is always a little bit confusing. I'm like, oh, you know, I'm like thinking, and like the time change does not mean it takes longer to get there, by the way. I know that. I'm just saying. It is a little bit of a like, And so I'm like, and then Quarry's like, So she looks on her device, she's like, I had somehow not stayed on Route 74. All I had to do was stay on the same route. That's all I had to do. Somehow I got on Route 55, which takes you to Chicago, and drove us like an hour out of the way. What a nerd. And then, so of course I'm like super stressed out and beating myself up about being such a doofus. I know we've all done it before, right? Like we've all done, I know. And like they were so kind, by the way. Nobody was like, oh my God. They were like, no, we'll just have a lunch of combos and sodas. And I was like, oh, thank you, you're so nice. Because that means I was going to make them this lunch. So I'm like beating myself up about being an idiot in my head. I'm trying not to put it on anybody else, but I may have accidentally said something. But anyway, and the best part is on the way up, I'm like, oh, yeah, it seems like we should be there because I promise I've been speeding a little bit the whole time. Not a lot, just like the 5 to 7 that's acceptable. But anyway, luckily, even though we did go out of the way, we didn't have to completely backtrack because, you know, that's really soul crushing, right? When you literally have to just follow the same route the whole way back. At least we were able to like get on a route. Like we went up and then we went down just a little bit and we were able to get on the route that went out literally that dumps us right on the church. So it wasn't terrible, but it was nonetheless a shenanigan. And then the best is I'm like so like about it that I when I get on the route that's gonna go to the church, I didn't realize when I turned left to like the exit's like one where you don't exit, like you don't merge, you just turn. And like then I almost killed us all because I didn't realize the road, I didn't really almost kill us all. But the road went down to 1 lane from 2 and I did not see it because it literally happened right after the turn. What kind of design is that? There's no indication because you're turning into it and there's 2 lanes and then suddenly there's 1 lane. And so I had committed to passing this car after I turned because I maintained my lane and turned into the left lane. And so I was committed to passing this car in the right lane when I then realized that the road was going down 1 lane. So I had to not only pass that car, but pass the semi that it was like 2 inches behind because there was no way I could get in there. So unless I would have literally just stopped in the road, which always feels more dangerous because I didn't have time to look to make sure there was nothing behind me. And I could see that I could thread the needle and get up there with my 4-cylinder engine. Okay, it's 6 cylinders, but still. So not only did I shake their confidence by going the wrong way, then I had to do this crazy driving maneuver, and I'm sure they were all like, oh my gosh, next time I'll drive. Oh. Anyway, we did get there. And while we didn't have lunch, sorry guys, we did work off that. We had that amazing breakfast. So thank goodness we had an amazing breakfast to tide us over to dinner time. But it actually kind of worked out okay because we didn't eat lunch in Illinois, then we ate breakfast there the next morning, and that was also really wonderful. So that was nice. Normally we just go right from the hotel and eat like whatever junk is at the hotel, or actually usually what happens is that Joanna brings fancy stuff for us to eat because she's super fancy. She's rolling her eyes if she is actually watching this, but you know what I mean. I'm not out of breath. I'm just in pain. Sorry. Anyway, so that was good. So we ate breakfast in Illinois the next morning, and that was super pleasant. And again, the retreat is awesome as always. It's lovely to see everybody there. So there were some people that weren't there this year that are usually there, and that was a little bit sad. But then there were other people there that I had not met before, so that was awesome. That's how retreats work, right? I don't need to tell you that, but sometimes I just think out loud. Because that's what this thing is. It's me thinking out loud. So anyway, Bob did a presentation, who is Paula's husband. He did a presentation about his wood turning and woodworking. So he showed us not only these beautiful bowls that he had wood turned, but this stool, this like epic bar stool that he had made for like well, it's not super high, but maybe for like their counter, like brick, I don't know. Maybe it's just a chair. But anyway, it's a stool shape. There's no back. I don't know what I'm talking about, y'all. Not mess. Anyway, it's all super gorgeous and beautiful curves and like super smooth. And apparently like it was a 2-person job to like get it all glued together at the end, which is very cute to think about. Paula and Bob like pre-gaming, like how they're gonna, like they're doing like a dry run of how they're gonna assemble this thing before the glue, because the glue doesn't dry in the wrong time. So not only did he bring his own wood turning, but he also brought some of Paula's sweaters that she had made him throughout the years. One of which was like, I want to say that it was close to my age. I may be making that up now that I think about it. But anyway, he brought some of the, like, his older sweaters that she has made him that are still existing. So cute. Relationship goals. Anyway, it was wonderful. And then at the end of the presentation, he's like, and I just like to point out the contributions of women in most of it, because he's retired at this point, but he had previously been a professor, and in the mathematics field. And so he said that traditionally he likes to point out the contributions of women, which is especially important in mathematics because y'all, it's Boyville up in there. But so he pointed out specifically a wood turning bowl that has been written by a woman that he thinks is a really great resource and things like that. So, and like, let me just discuss the whole wood turned bowl with like the bark edging. You know what I mean? Like, where part of it, if not the entire lip, at least part of it is still the natural edge of the wood. So gorgeous. It's like an aesthetic explosion. So anyway, that's the only class I went to because then I was talking too much and I missed another one that I was going to go to, but because there were so many other great, awesome people there, I had to talk to them. And I still didn't get to talk to everybody. How does that always work? Do I need less light on me? Whatever. So there we go. Let's look at my notes, shall we? Chicago, breakfast, Bob, women's contributions, sweaters, mist faces, Olympic skate. Oh, so this was fun though. At the end of the evening, on the first evening, because it's the Olympics, right, y'all? Which is over now. It's okay. By the time the end of the Olympics comes around, I'm like, I'm good. But anyway, the end of the evening, as we were all still in the retreat space, we realized that the Olympic skating was coming on, the men's figure skating. And so we all huddled around, well, not all, because we're 150 of us, but those of us who were holding out huddled around Malia's iPhone. Actually, I think she was on the iPad by that time. So that we can watch Adam Rippon do his short program, right? I think it was the short program. Because he's so cute. So enjoyable. Oh, so wonderful. And then Paula Apple. Oh, and so then the next day, Saturday, was the Vendors Market, which is always awesome. It's so great. It's such a treat to actually get to see people enjoying my bags and buying them and being excited about prints. And because the fun thing about it is you can actually have people be like, oh, I really love this print, and then they don't buy it. And now that sounds weird, right? That you're like, that's great. But like, it is, because ultimately, like, when you have a shop, an online shop, you gauge your successes by what gets purchased. And it's nice in a strange way to see people enjoy something that they like. They're just not going to purchase it. And now that sounds really just, that doesn't sound right. But you know, there's some people that like have my aesthetic and they enjoy my aesthetic, but they're like, but I've got enough of your aesthetic. But there's still, you know, I don't know how to explain that, but anyway, it's pleasant. But before that, Amber, who is the yarn hoarder, brought in her circular sock machine. Now she did this because she's super kind, and I had IM'd her, or I had messaged her maybe a couple weeks before the retreat, and I had a question about the circular sock machine, and she seemed like the easiest person to ask. And so, and she said, well, you know, I could bring it with me to Illinois. And I was like, she's like, yeah, just bring a really loosely caked thick yarn, and then I'll bring it. We'll make a sock tube for you. And I was like, what? Because, you know, a circular sock machine, while the machine itself is not the biggest thing on earth, like, it has to have a platform which is attached. It's not like it's just like you're going to throw it in the bag and bring it. Do you know what I mean? So it was like super duper kind of her to offer to do that. And so she brought it into the retreat on Saturday. And she let me she set it up for me. And then she let me crank a sock tube, which, by the way, I was terrible at. terrible. Like, right? You don't think about it being like I thought about the circular time machine being different when you like start to do heels and toes and stuff like that, where you're like doing complicated stuff. Like, no, I literally could not crank a tube. Like, you're literally just like this. There's a technique, which I did not have in my practice session. But nonetheless, it was super helpful because A, I got a sock tube cranked, and I'll show you the socks in just a minute. So that was awesome. And then B, it was really good to just kind of get a feel for how the mechanics, I mean, because you can watch them on YouTube, it's different. It's different when you do it in person, right? Like, it was actually really helpful for me to be bad at it. Because now if I do decide in the future to get a sock machine, I will not have false expectations of how it should go. Because especially I've been thinking about trying to do a refurbished machine or just an older machine. Because mechanically they're not that complicated of a product. Now, that's not to say that they don't have a lot of moving parts, because, you know, all of your needles and the latches on all the needles and it all has to work together very smoothly for it to work correctly, because Hi did not work for me. So that's not to like in any way belittle the product, but it's not something, I mean, you can see the moving parts, right? Like, it's nothing that's really hidden from you. And so that was helpful for me to see as well. But anyway, it was super helpful for me to not be good at it, because I would have thought if I had purchased an older machine and I had had that like experience with it, I would have thought that I had like gotten a lemon or something. And the reality was like, no, it's not the machine, it's you. There was a question that like the machine had been left out overnight and it was rather cold. And so that could have affected like the lubrication of the mechanisms and things like that. So it might have been a slightly more difficult experience than it would otherwise have been, but neither here nor there. It was good. Am I talking enough about this? Oh my gosh, can I shut up? Can I also discuss that as soon as I put my head on the pillow Saturday night, because I took us an hour out of the way, I was also running a little bit low on fuel, but I didn't want to stop before we got to the retreat because, you know, I could have stopped because I turned around at a gas station, but I was mentally not prepared to do anything but like belittle myself in my head at the time. So I should have stopped and gotten gas on the way to the hotel, but it was really super cold and I didn't really think about what I was about to think about in a minute, and I'll tell you. As soon as I laid my head on the pillow, I realized that I had like 1/8 of a tank of gas and it was going to be like 20 degrees Fahrenheit outside, which is below freezing. And so instantly pictures of my husband and my grandfather like bloomed in my head saying, you can never leave your car overnight with less than half a tank of gas if it's below freezing. You'll get fuel line freeze up. And I was like, so I'm laying there and I could tell Malia is either asleep or like on the verge because it's quite late. I don't think we laid down until like midnight or 1 o'clock our time. And so I was like, and also it was cold and I didn't want to get up and go out and get gas and come back. And, you know what I mean? Like, hi. So I had to lay there for like 20 minutes being like, should I get up? Should I get up? Should I get up? And every time I woke up in the night to turn or whatever, I was like, oh my gas tank's not going to be working in the morning. I was like, I've got AAA. I can just walk and get gasoline. Because of course I have my book on the iPod so I can read it at night. So I'm Googling all of the information about fuel line freeze up and how to fix it. I'm like, I can just walk and get gas to fill up the tank if I need to. It'll be okay. My gas tank did not freeze up. By the way, also, am I the only person who's ever heard of this? Like, nobody else was like, oh yeah, that's a thing. But it actually happened to my friend not too long ago, like this winter. So I know it's not something that only happens to older cars. And some people are like, oh, but it doesn't happen anymore because there's ethanol in the gas, which is a lower freezing point than regular gasoline. But it's actually not the gas that freezes in your car. It's actually the condensation in the air, in the tank, and the lines. The moisture in that is what freezes and then can block or discourage combustion or something. I don't even know for sure exactly, but that's what it is, okay? But anyway, it didn't happen, so I don't know why I'm telling you about it. But in case you don't have your grandfather and your partner in your head telling you not to go to sleep at night without more than a half a tank of gas in your car when it's really cold, now you can have me in your head, so you're welcome. So then we came home and that was much less eventful. Hooray! Even though there was totally a snowstorm, which freaks me out usually hard. It snowed quite a bit during the vendor market. And so, but it was like right on it was a little bit warmer than freezing. It had been warmer than freezing for a few days before. So normally I get really bent about driving in weather, but I felt like it was going to be okay. I kept checking the temperatures for like our house, for Washington, Illinois, and then all the way back to Indianapolis, but there was a little bit of dodginess after we dropped off Joanna. The roads started to look like they were frozen a little bit, but I was able to still have traction, so it wasn't too bad. And I made it home safely, and I know the Rails did too, so yay! Okay, I think that's all I needed to talk about. Is that right? Oh my goodness. Very pregnant goats, buckwheat pancakes. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so if you're like, what is wrong with you? A, so many things. But B, also on Sunday after I got back, I pinched a nerve in my lower back. And I'm still dealing with it a little bit. I'm much, much better. I had 5 days of completely being out of commission. Like literally, no knitting. There was crying. Pain crying. So I've actually been better for like 4 days now, and then today I've had a bit of a ouchiness relapse. So if I'm like kind of like every once in a while, it's not you. I'm just digging my fist into my hip to make myself not be in pain. So it stinks, right? And I don't even know what I did. I go to the chiropractor because I have a wonkadoodle spine and neck. And like, let me just discuss. Nothing will make you think that you need to jump on the like weight loss bandwagon faster than anything physically being wrong with you and you're a fat person. Anyway, sorry, that's an aside, but that's just like, you're already in pain, and then you're like, it's my fault that I'm in pain. It's all my own doing. What have I done to myself? People who are not fat also have bad backs. Oh, okay, now that some of you are out there like, yeah, but not as many, just shush. Nobody wants to be fat. Okay, maybe somebody does, but most of us don't. Anyway, let's talk about knitting. Oh, let's talk about the vendor market though, I forgot. Okay, so I'm not on like a not buying yarn kick at all, but I am trying to be reasonable because, hello. So, but Joanna Spring had what? Self-striping. Knit Spin Farm has started to do self-striping, y'all. And not only has she started to do self-striping, but she's also doing it in the bases that I love most. So this one is the Tarhi Sport, which is superwash Tarhi, 90%, 10% nylon. And it's about 300 yards. So it's a sport weight, or you can consider heavy finger. You can really, whatever works for you to think about it as. But it is definitely not a regular fingering weight. And this is County Clare with wide stripe of shamrock, thin stripes of spring pasture, burren, and peat. Right? Like I wasn't going to buy that. Isn't it beautiful? And I've had such a green thing lately that I just could not pass it up. I mean, I knew I was going to get one, but the other ones even had like really great stories, and this was like green. I need the grass to come back. So I'm super excited about those. And then, of course, because I went over there, see, that's the secret. I didn't even go anywhere else, but Joanna was right next to me, and I knew I needed that. So then I bought some other stuff. Actually, I traded, so shush. Right? She's going to stop doing braided fiber. What? Like just regular top. So there was this. So I had to have that. And it's Corriedale, right? I'm pretty sure it's Corriedale. Oh, it's Dorset Horn. Even better. Even better. And she had this one and a littler one. So it's perfect for doing socks. Because usually I'm not a very thin spinner. And so it's difficult for me to get enough yardage out of 4 ounces for socks. So there was a 4 ounce and a 3 ounce bump. So perfection. Super excited about my Dorset Horn socks, y'all. And like, look at that. Come on. And then this was right next to it. This is totally not being captured, as amazing as it is. It is gorgeous. It is all of the beautiful yellowy gorgeousness with gray and a little bit of gold sari silk. And like, come on. Like, is it appropriate to just like wallpapers one's home in bats? And I know it could get dusty, but really, we could just felt over it. Don't need to clean the dust. Just you could vacuum it. Yeah, that would work. Right. This is the facial I want. Take me to this spa day, and I will be in. Not into the regular spa day, but if there could be a spa day in which I would just be exposed to excessive amounts of wool, I'd be in. Okay, so now let's talk about knitting and spinning. Oh my gosh, yes, let's do that. Okay. So, I started to talk about it. Let's finish talking about it. Amber, Yarn Hoarder, helped me crank, and then she actually cranked because I needed to go do the vendor market. A pair of socks. Oh, crud. This is another crafty girl, right? Who is Sarah? Who's Punky? Who is an extremely talented dyer? And the colorway name is over there. I'll put it in the show notes. But how pretty is that yarn? Here it is in the ball. Right. I want to get closer to you so you can see it. But I gotta be honest with you, I can't really move so well right now. So let's do this. Can we zoom? It's terrifying. I'm not sure how close we'll get. And it's a little slow, but ooh, look, it does really work well. Ooh, I'm so fancy, y'all. So look, there it is. And then here's the sock itself. Like that's how it's knit up on 64 stitches. Is that not gorgeous? So what Amber does, let's just keep the rest of the podcast in this level. It'll be exciting. So what Amber does is that she just cranks a tube. So like you can do different things if you have a circular sock machine. You can decide to just crank a tube, which is just like a sock snake. I think the cutie patootie calls it. Not Amber, but English beautiful face. What is your name? I can't come up with it. I should edit that out. But you just make like a big tube, like, right? You just crank a big tube. And then what you do is you just add on, you can either add on toes at either end or add on your cuffs at either end. And then you just snip one thread in the middle and then do the opposite. Either put the toes or the cuffs there. And then you snip your thread to do an afterthought heel. Right. You can do heels, toes, and cuffs on a circular sock machine, 100%. But you don't have to. You can just decide to do it that way. But isn't this just the beautifulest? I'd been hoarding this for quite some time. And then I knew that Sarah was not going to be at the Knitting Pipeline Retreat this year. So it felt like she should be there in some way. So I brought her yarn. Yay. And that is super gorgeous. So yay. Yeah. And there's this like whole question about like whether you're, actually there is no question. Some people have a question about like whether if you're using a circular sock machine you need to like announce to people that you're you do you all, but if I make you socks and I use a circular sock machine, I'm not telling you that I used it. Not to like be deceitful or anything, but like I don't tell you that I sew my fabric with an electric machine. And I also, and that's electric even, not even manual crank. And I also don't weave my own fabric. I also don't print my own fabric. I'm just saying. Anyway, I had been thinking about one because I'm not really ready to make the plunge yet, because it is a significant expenditure. Even refurbished ones usually go north of $700 as your minimum like buy-in place. So I'm not saying that, I know I'm telling you this, but anyway, I'm not like ready to purchase one tomorrow by any stretch of the imagination. But I did want to look into it because I have, my grandfather is developing, they don't really diagnose it, but he's showing symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, like pretty significant ones. Anyway, I had made him a pair of socks a while ago. I started making Mamaw socks first. Actually, I made Papaw socks first, and then she stole his socks. So then I made him some more socks. And I didn't think he would really like them because he's excessively practical. Like, he's never really liked that his wife was crafty. Like, Mama was a professional seamstress, like in alterations, and made wedding gowns and did all sorts of crazy stuff. And he never really enjoyed that she did that because he felt like, you know, why would you make your own clothes when you can often purchase them for the same price or less? Like, I love my grandpa, but that is one of his flaws in my mind. Anyway, I didn't think he would actually like socks because, I mean, it's not like I was going to tell him how much the yarn cost, but, you know, it's clear that it takes a long time to make them. And even if the yarn were free, it would still not be like, the value system would be skewed. So anyway, but he did like them. And in fact, he's diabetic and he would wear them at night because there's less, because the elastic is not strong, there's no elastic in them. But like commercial socks will often pinch your leg and that's how they stay up. Whereas hand knit socks seem to stand up because they're a little bit thicker and have more body. So he really liked them, especially for sleeping at night, because they didn't pinch his leg. And if you're diabetic, you typically have circulatory issues or neuropathies and stuff in your extremities and blood flow issues. So I think I already said that twice, sorry. But anyway, he wore a pair of his. Now, I made him more than one pair by that time, but he wore one of the pairs down to the fact, like, the soles were pretty much gone. And so I have made him more since then. And again, he had even some more at that point. But I don't think he's wearing them as often because he's afraid of wearing them out more. So anyway. My grandfather has definitely been like a father figure to me because I did not have a father for most of my childhood. For parts of it that I remember. Not that he wasn't, he was a human that I knew, but he was not present in my life in any sort of everyday way. So anyway, intense emotions, right? Like my grandparents are aging and they're both having escalating health issues and they're compounding and then there's this whole thing. And for a man who has been a very traditional, old school, World War II generation control freak, also one of his issues, which I sympathize with, control obsessed. So this is extremely, not that it's not difficult for everybody, but it's intense to watch him go through this process. So anyway, that was a lot to tell you that I was thinking about buying a circular sock machine, sorry. I'm not even on good pain meds, y'all. It's just ibuprofen. Anyway, so I've just been thinking about, I'm not, again, I'm just kind of toying with the idea. So, what I'm saying is, it would be nice to be able to give them like a whole bouquet of socks a couple times a year instead of being like, here's your, basically I get them basically 3 pairs a piece because I got grandparents and parents and that adds up, right? So anyway, it would be nice to be like, here's your quiver of socks for your birthday instead of being like, here is a pair and a half of socks for your birthday. Okay. What are we talking about next? Let's talk, is that all I brought? Goodness, is that all no, there's a thing there. Okay. So there are those. I also started on a pair of socks for my mama out of one of the the Regia Arnie and Carlos. The perfect ones. So these are the ones where you get 2 perfectly matched socks out of them. And how it works is there's like a little, see the yellow in that? I don't know if you can see it from there, but I'm not going to zoom in for it. But and that tells you like where to start. So you have a cuff that's in the contrasting color, and then as soon as your yarn changes color, you go to the leg, and then it will change color again, and that's when you start your heel. Now, I kind of thought about like cutting the heel yarn and starting the foot so there wouldn't be quite as much of a instep band there, but it's pictured on the ball that way, so I just went with it. And Mama's not going to be like, I reject these socks. So anyway, I had a pair of Arnie and Carlos on at Christmas that she liked. And I know she doesn't actually like the Regia yarn as much. I've made her other, not Regia maybe, but Opal. And she does really prefer the fancier sock yarn base, but I think the patterning will make up for it. Also, I did make the cuff slightly shorter. These are only 56 stitch socks. And so I did cut some out of the cuff as well. So yeah. And so then when you get your foot as long as you need to, you just cut your yarn and then reattach the white to do the toe with. So yay. So there's that. And those are just a plain cuff down, slip stitch heel sock. Okay. Not slip stitch heel. Sorry. Heel flap sock. Okay, so there's those. And then I'll show you this thing that you've seen recently. This is my Granito, which is by Joji Locatelli. And I'm knitting mine with Beaverslide Dry Goods 2-ply Sport in the... It's a tree color, y'all. What is it? Oh, it doesn't say on here. It's like Juniper. Oh, it is. There it is. Juniper Heather. I was like, it's like Juniper Heather. It is Juniper Heather, y'all. Oh, it smells so good. Again, put that on my face. Put the sweater on my face. Oh, so delicious. So I have made it to the pocketses. Well, slightly past the pocketses. So here it is so far. The pockets are where this yarn is. I know, right? It doesn't really tell you anything. It's like, that is a nice green rectangle of sweater. I think I've said this before, but just in case I didn't, I did decide to steek the armholes because they are just a, what is this called? Drop shoulder. There's no shaping or anything in them. So I decided to steek them so I could knit this in the round. And then I think what I'll do is the pattern is written for a long sleeve sweater. I'm not sure yet if I'll do the long sleeve or if I'll do like an elbow sleeve or if I'll do like a 3/4. I'm thinking maybe 3/4, but maybe I'll do the full on. I don't know. But so I have about 4 inches left before I hit the ribbing and then steek the sleeves. Okay. This yarn is super pleasant to work with. It is a little splitty, so if you don't like that or if that makes you uncomfortable, then don't purchase it. But I do love the finished fabric. It's beautiful and drapey and just woolly. Just nice. I like it. So there's that. And then the last thing I have to show you, until we do a shameless self-promotion that is my Hansel, which is by Gudrun Johnston. Every time I start to say her name, I'm like, right? Gudrun Johnston. And it is just a traditional full square hat. I am making mine with Brooklyn Tweed. Right? I'm insane. Loft, of course, the fingering weight one. Well, I should say of course, but I am. Now she does offer this. It is just a traditional hat, right? It's just, and you can either, she offers it in the full square version, which is the one I'm doing, and she also offers it in the triangular version, so it's just like a half hat. So of course it's not going to show you much because it's on needles. But this is Brooklyn Tweed's Old Foot. It's not Nest, but it's the other one that's close to Nest. Owl, what am I saying? Barn owl. So that's the main color of my hat. And then her pattern is written with 4 contrasting colors, but I had to do 5 because I'm a mess. So it has Artifact, Bird Book, Pumpernickel, Sap, and Hayloft. I was pointing to things while you weren't even on there. But isn't it gorgeous? Again, I'm having a green thing lately. Now, the pattern, I should have thought about this. I made the hat itself bigger by like 30%, I think. So the middle square, I made it 30% larger. And, sorry, I was looking at a thing. So I had intended to make the border bigger as well. But when I got ready to do the border, I was so excited that I didn't really plan on how I was going to do that. So I'm still trying to decide. I think what I've decided is that I'm just going to repeat it because it's like a mirror, right? Like this is the skinny stripes are like the center of the reflection. And so then it goes back down to the darker pumpernickel. So I think what I'm going to do is just do it like, if half of the reflection is one repeat, I think I'm going to do 3, which is a little bit maybe less impactful, but I'm okay with that because I think I do want the border to be bigger. And I'm pretty sure I'll have plenty of yarn to do it. But isn't it gorgeous? Oh, it's like the dreaming of spring hap. Oh. And so it's just feather and fan. Did I say that already? So it is very basic lace work. And it is, the only thing I am doing is I am doing the, somebody told me that it's, Meg Zimmerman calls it sew as you go garter in the round. But anyway, it's doing garter stitch in the round without purling. So basically you knit around, wrap a stitch, and then work backwards. Work on the wrong side of the fabric so that you're not having to purl. So because it is garter stitch. And so if you prefer a triangular shaped shawl and you also do not like to purl, then this is that would be a great option for you because you would not have to worry about doing the fancy thing. But isn't it pretty? Oof. So yummy. So it is just such a pleasant knit. I had to stop myself from going any further because I don't want it to go too fast. But boy, is it pleasant to work on. Oh. And of course it smells beautiful and it's just lovely. So that's all I have to show you. Yay! All those things though. Shop updates. So if you're not interested in shameless self-promotion, that's cool. I'll see you next time. But if you are, okay, let's talk about it. I will have an update March 1st, and that will be library card and granny square bags. So I apologize, I got kind of off on those because I had that really big Hygge pre-order and it just threw me off a little bit. And then getting ready for the Knitting Pipeline Retreat. But those will be available March 1st. And then I will also have the following things on March 2nd. Sorry. Words and things. So on March 2nd, I will have a little bit of Hygge. So if you did not get it on the pre-order and you're like, oh, I wish I would have. I did have some fabric left, so there will be those in the shop. That's again Friday, March 2nd at 9 p.m. Now, if you want the sweater size and you must have an animal of one kind or the other, please do put it in your notes. There's a cat and there's a dog. So I do my best. The Aran sweaters, they're both going to be on there in all likelihood. But the sweater size, this fabric has such a big repeat that I may not be able to get both of the dog and the cat on there. Or he may not be placed well. So if you are really married to one or the other, please let me know in the notes when you place your order, and I will do my best to make sure you get the critter of your choice. So those are happening. And let me just also say this update will not ship immediately. The favorites update is usually like I think I usually say 7 to 10 business days. This will probably be a little bit faster, but because I am dealing with this pinched nerve thing, I don't know that I'll be able to have everything ready to go exactly on time. And especially too with the Hygge and stuff, I don't know if I'll actually, sell all of the fabric I have because there has been such a great pre-order for it. So, FYI. We don't care. Okay. And so then I'll also have this super cute fabric from Ray Ritchie, who is one of my favorite fabric designers. And so we'll have these super awesome bird medals. What? And it's not just birds, but the birds stick out in my mind because there's a bird and an owl, and there's a super awesome fox, and there's a dainty little rabbit, and a fancy deer giving you side eye, right? And so this is the sock plus size. You just forget me at this angle for a minute. And it has the contrasting fabric inside. Okay. And then also from the same line by Ray Ritchie is this sock pouch. And it has these super fancy owls with their super fancy eyebrows on it. What? And now some of these are lined with the pink and some of them are lined with this super awesome mushroom print. Right. So those will be happening. There will be a few odds and ends. There'll be a few odds and ends sock bags as well. But those will be the bigger quantities. And so then I will also have fabric that I did for Paula's retreat. So you will have options for sweater or large wedge. This is the large wedge size. I know that a lot of people are hesitant about the light colored fabrics. So I have used a charcoal gray brushed canvas for the bottom. So you can get that in large wedge or sweater. And I think it's a great print for spring, because you have this beautiful, I'm really into this rose gold thing lately. It's kind of, I don't know how to explain it. The designer actually calls it rose gold, and I would agree. It's very beautiful and painterly. There's a good amount of dimension to it, and the birds are in a blue, like an indigo-ish blue. Anyway, it's quite enjoyable. I think it's nice. Again, the print has depth to it. What you're not seeing is it almost looks like it's been painted on a monochromatic rose print in the background. Rose is maybe not the word because that sometimes turns people off. But it has a very subtle floral underlay below the painting, or below the image of the birds and the branches. And they do have a nest and a speckly eggs inside of it. So that's what's happening March 2nd at 9 p.m. Eastern. So again, this will be sewn to order. I have everything in-house, but it may be in that like 7 to 10 business days for me to ship them out. I want to be able to get them up as I indicated that I would, but I have to acknowledge that I could have a rough day between then and there that I cannot work. So, okay, I think that's all. So I'll talk to you next time. Bye.